a sort of standard practice for how video is used in marketing feature films right now?
Yeah, there's definitely a standard practice, and I'm trying to actively change how we use video to market films, because the way that we're marketing through video historically has been very limiting. And what we typically will do is we will look at a film and we will select probably 10 clips, anywhere between a minute and 90 seconds, as a pool, and we'll select specifically to try to give people a taste of the tonality of the film, to really use those clips as a way to introduce people to the actual content. The 10 clips will then be shared with the distributor, the PR team, and from the 10 we'll whittle it down to about 6 or so, keeping the total number less than 10 minutes total, including footage from the trailer. And that's the Academy rules. Although I don't think the Academy ever goes online and counts the minutes, we stay to that 10-minute rule, and we never want to put out, prior to release of a film, more than 10 minutes. We then take those clips and we put it on Vimeo or other services. Sometimes many, sometimes only one. And then as we get closer to release, we will pitch exclusive scenes as exclusives to various digital media outlets to get more coverage for the film going into opening weekend. So all the clips are then put into kind of a wish list grid. A clip would go to IndieWire, another clip would go to a blog maybe for the genre, some clips would go to IMDb, and because they're exclusive for 24 hours to those sites, you get considerable amount of promotion. So in a way, it's looking at bartering exclusive content for exposure. And that's typically how most films look at video content. Sometimes there'll be an EPK, there'll be behind the scenes, and we'll look at putting together a featurette and looking for the best outlet. So most video to date for theatrical releases, or films that have theatrical releases, video is used for barter for PR. And it's split up into different opportunities to maximize the exposure. So you're using it literally to get more awareness, because you don't have the type of advertising dollars that the big studios have. And in many instances, you don't have the stars, you just have a great film. And that's the best way to get the type of awareness. It works, it's how everybody does it. It doesn't build community, it doesn't build loyalty, it doesn't do anything more than just give you exposure. So why I said I'm looking to change that is that it's important to start to shift and start to make video much more strategic, not just leading into opening weekend, but for the long run of the film, for the entire breadth and depth that film will be online. Nowadays, a lot of people see a movie, they love the movie, and they go online and they Google to learn more after they've seen the movie. We need to create video content to serve that audience, to keep them engaged, to keep them motivated. It's difficult to do because most filmmakers, they just are trying to finish their film in time. They have no ability to think about new narratives and additional content. But when you get into that mindset, that's when you start early, is when you have the ability to look at the web from the perspective of developing community through narrative. And that shift is very difficult to do when you're looking at films in the traditional distribution system. But it's shifting.
What you're talking about sort of tickled in my mind. We always go back to Indie Game, and I guess you talked about it in Toronto recently as well. But they did really run such a smart sort of campaign for their film, and I was just looking through their Vimeo feed last night, actually, and it was such a clever mix of content. It was behind the scenes, it was one-on-one talking head videos with the actual filmmakers themselves. It was deleted sequences. And you see this deleted scene, it'll get 50,000 views, and then like kind of a throwaway sort of 1 minute, almost kind of Vine or Instagram-ish kind of video of a friend of theirs actually watching the film for the first time in his sort of delighted expression. And that would get like 12,000 views. And then the very next video they uploaded was the trailer, which ended up doing really well and getting like 500,000 views. And what it seemed to me was that there's your big pieces of content which can really drive awareness, but then there's value in these tiny bits of content as well, which really build up social capital and kind of fuel that kind of community building sentiment. You know, Ryan, you have a large community with No Film School and what you're building through Manchild. Like, what is the importance of continually having content that your fans can interact with?
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to tie that back into Indie Game. I thought, you know, of the many, many smart things that James and Lisanne have said about their whole strategy and their release, is that every decision they made was about making their second film. And that, you know, obviously making a first film is hard. I'm presently an example of that. But, you know, for them, if they had signed a traditional distribution deal, then they wouldn't be in touch with their fan base to reach out and let them know that they had another project. So, you know, I'm looking forward to when Vimeo has that sort of email tool, because that's been the #1 success on No Film School, has been giving away exclusive content in exchange for an email address. Twitter's great, Facebook is great, the Vimeo social feed is great, but those things rely on someone going to those places and checking their feed, whereas email is a proactive thing that you can send them and say, hey, I've got something.